welcome to episode 7 of the Albanach Knitting Podcast. My name is Andrew and I'm coming to you from the Isle of Arran on the west coast of Scotland. And this is a space on the internet where I share my knitting, my love of this beautiful island, Scotland in general, and just have a good time, really. Today's episode is the first for a little while. It's been busy. I've had Easter, we've had holidays and a busy few weeks at work after Easter, but there's been plenty of knitting action going on. So I'll be showing you a little bit of my trip to mainland Scotland. I'll be updating you on the Sannox Stitches Knitting Retreat, which we held last week, and I'll be showing you some of my finished objects and my new projects. So let's get on with it. So as I said, it's been a really packed few weeks. Being a pastor, Easter was busy, as you might expect. And then I did have a lovely opportunity for holiday, but there's been plenty of knitting action in that time. And in fact, on holiday, I actually managed to finish a pair of socks. So there we are, some finished objects. They've all been folded up, so that's why they look particularly weird. Red socks with the afterthought heel. I showed you how I did that on a previous video, but finally got both of them finished and quite happy with them. I like the wool. I'll put the details down below because I can't remember right now what it is, but it's a softer wool than some of the regular stuff that I've been using. And I did say that I wasn't going to show you the finished socks, but by popular demand, there we go, 2 finished socks. I don't know what I'm going to do with these, to be honest with you, because although I've made them for my size, my feet trouble makes it quite difficult for me to wear wool on my feet. The texture just sort of irritates, so they may go somewhere else, but nevertheless, still really proud to have finished them. But the biggest finished object that I'm really proud of is I have finished the Monday sweater by Petite Knits for my daughter, Katie. And I finished it on the 29th of April, which is exactly 1 month after her birthday that it was due to be finished on. But honestly, I am so proud of this jumper. The lovely collar there, the sort of folded over and knitted in collar. You can see where the edge has been knitted in there. The raglan increases, which this is the first one I've done of a raglan from top down, and I was really pleased with how that all turned out. It looks quite smart if you ask me. And the sleeves, which were great fun, but then look at this lovely ribbing at the end. Look at this lovely sort of ribbing, a nice long rib, and I'm especially proud, not of that bit, but especially proud of the tubular bind off that I managed to do on the edge. And in fact, you can see it most particularly on the bottom rib, which again has lots of rib, but look at the edge of that. Look at the edge. I'm really proud of that. It just looks really professional the way that's finished off. So I'll insert a little picture here of Katie wearing it. I'm glad to say that it fits perfect. There's a nice bit of ease on it, so she'll have space to grow into it as well. It should do it a good long time. What can I say? I am just really proud of this. I love the colour. It's a nice sort of earthy, muted tone, and I think Katie loves it. I think she's quite pleased with it. Now it's still to be blocked and all that shenanigans, so it's literally just off the needles. And one of the benefits of having a knitting retreat at work meant that I could take my knitting to work and be retreating with the delegates that we had, but also be working on this sweater. So there we go, the Monday sweater by Petite Knits. Really proud of it, really chuffed. But to the extent that, you probably have this yourself, when you come to the end of a project that you've been working on, kind of monogamous. I've only been working on that particular sweater with a sole focus for such a long time. I had to do a very quick think, what on earth am I going to do next? And so one of the things that I decided that I was going to do is just crochet something. I do crochet now and again. I'm not particularly prolific or particularly wonderful at it, but I had some lovely wool. And this is Alphys Lopi. And really, I just wanted to see how this crocheted up. And I was quite pleased with it, really. Although it's a little bit rough around the neck, but it is nice and warm. Somebody told me, I think it was on Instagram, that if you give this a wash, it really softens quite nicely. So this is no particular design. It's something I designed myself, and I won't attempt to tell you what stitches these are because the UK and the US have different terms for the stitches, and I don't know the difference between the two. But it's basically what I would call a single crochet row, and then either a double or triple. I can't remember what it is, alternating. And I thought it looked like a sort of row of a wheat field, so I've called this little design, such as it is, the wheat field cowl. Not very complex, but nice and simple, and I quite like it. I like the colour, and it's really quite snug around my neck. As I say, with a little bit of softening, I think this will be really quite nice come the winter. So that was my, if you want, palette cleanser after having spent so much time on the petite knit sweater, the Monday sweater. I really liked that design, and so the little cowl was just something to do something different with something. So those are my finished projects: a completed pair of socks, a completed sweater, and a wee completed cowl. I've still got a few balls of this lovely blue-faced Leicester wool from Woolly Knit that I've been using. It's 100% natural blue-faced fleece. It's just a lovely yarn to squish. It's got a little bit of a sheepy smell, which I think is nice, not too much. But I've got three, these are 50-gram balls, 102 metres, 113 yards left of this. So I don't know what to do. I think it might end up as a little hat, because I do like making the odd beanie. And I've got three of those little balls left, which will be just ideal to do something like that with. So, finished objects, look at me. Then, as I came to the end of the sweater, did that quick crocheted cowl, but really had to get down to it and think of what I was going to knit next. And mentioned, I think it was on my the Q&A live session that I did, that when the Rowan flagship store was opened down near St Albans, where we used to live, I went into the Rowan store and bought this beautiful Rowan felted tweed. And I just actually noticed with my glasses off, because I'm kind of funny with the old eyesight. But this felted tweed is a colourway by K Facet, and a felted effect yarn with merino and alpaca. Now I think this is different. I'll need to look it up. But when I made my last fisherman's kit with all those lovely colours, it was Rowan felted tweed, but it felt very different. So I think there's something different about this with the alpaca in it. I might be wrong. I don't think the other stuff has alpaca. I'll check later. But this is just lovely. Look at you might not be able to see it fully, but it's a beautiful black yarn, but with these lovely little specks, these colour specks. And that's where the sort of cave facet effect comes in. It's absolutely beautiful. And I bought three of these. Now I think those three balls, or whatever you want to call them, came close to sort of between 40 and 50 pounds. So it wasn't a cheap purchase. But I did enjoy visiting that store and feeling all the lovely Rowan yarns. It sadly closed at some point during the pandemic. And I think that was coinciding with Rowan's move from being a sort of a British company to American. I might be wrong in that, don't quote me. But there was something changed in the company, and so they moved. But I decided that it was time to use it. And I showed you on that live chat that I had. And I made the mistake of responding weirdly to a suggestion that I make a shawl for my mum. And I said that my mum doesn't wear shawls because she's not an old lady. And then I was aware that I offended 95% of the female population of knitters. And what I meant by that is I know that, you know, shawls are all trendy and all that sort of thing, and everyone's wearing them, but still, my mum is just not the type of person. Nothing to do with her age, nothing to do with her being not an old lady or being an old lady, or she just doesn't wear shawls and things like that. So I'm going to stop digging right now. But by some sense of penance, I suppose, I decided that I would cast on a project again by my friend Meg from No Frills Knitting, and this is what she calls a Swiss Army scarf. It's just a big triangle on bigger needles with this lovely sort of yarn over thing down the centre to create the increases, and there's some the same along that edge as well. I think that's eventually going to be the long edge of the triangle, and it's sort of moving. Sorry, I'm not holding this very well, but it's moving triangulally down there. And this is it's so easy. It's just knit and purl. But you see, the suggestion is that you knit it on slightly larger needles, so you have this sort of lacy type effect. But it does actually produce quite a nice knitted sort of stockinette design on one side, and then of course the bumps on the other side. But I'm really pleased with how this is knitting up as a sort of triangular scarf thingy. I'm not going to call it a shawl, because this may actually be for me. Although I know that men wear shawls too. God, isn't life so complicated? Basically, I'm knitting this lovely big triangular thing that will go around my neck in the beautiful Rowan felted tweed black colourway with little flecks by Cave Facet. There you go, that's it. And I would like to point out that I'm now test driving my Chaigu needles. I'm still so overwhelmed by the beautiful gift of these needles, and this is the first project that I've started that I've been using them on, and really beautiful to use. I love the thing that they've got here at the join. You see the cable, you can hold the cable still and twist the needle, and it doesn't all twist up like my other ones. I love my Knit Pro Zing needles that I've been using for quite a few years now, cable needles, but these are just lovely. There's so much more flexibility and freedom when you're knitting with them, and what else can I say? I'm a very, very blessed man. I'm really enjoying, oh, they look like underpants, don't they? I'm not knitting underpants. That's a whole new thing. That's a whole area that we're just not going into. But I see, I do have 2 more of these, and whether that shawl or scarf will take up all of that, I don't think so, but I'll probably have some projects left over that I could work with the rest of that. So there you go, that's the sum of the Knitty achievement. Now, as I say, I went on holiday, and although I didn't do lots of sort of filming and pieces to camera during my holiday, I did take little pieces of video for you, because I thought, well, you'd quite like to see some of the places that we went, and there's a little bit of personal story filled in around about all the places that we went. So here's over to Holiday Andrew to show you the places where we went. So our first stop after dropping my mother-in-law off at the airport was to go to Luss on Loch Lomond side. This is one of my favourite little villages in Scotland. Loch Lomond is just beautiful and so accessible from the centre of Scotland in Glasgow. As you can see, beautiful little cottages heading down to the harbour. Just there on the left, just in this picture, the shop that was used in Take the High Road is Mrs Blair's country shop, a TV programme in Scotland here. Just beautiful little cottages with the mountains behind, Ben Lomond in the far distance, and this is looking south now towards the boathouse, and just lovely sunshine glimmering on the loch. It was an absolutely beautiful day. It was a bit cold. That's Luss from the end of the pier. It's just a beautiful place. Looking south there. Then we headed to the Coach Inn coffee shop, which has the most lovely tartan crockery. Everyone needs tartan crockery, and we've been buying piece by piece. We haven't got very much, but we do have some. But the lunch there is just lovely. And then our walk back. Then we travelled up to Stirling, where we were staying. We were staying in Dunblane, actually, a city just by Stirling. And we visited Bannockburn, the site of one of the battles of the Wars of Independence between ourselves and our lovely neighbours down in England there. And the Saltire flying boldly against a lovely blue sky, but I'll tell you, it was freezing. And here's King Robert the Bruce. He has a little statue there. He led the forces there, led the battle, led the charge. Last time I was here, it was about 1993 or 4, on a school trip, although I've taken Ben recently. That's my eldest. So here we are, King Robert the Bruce on his horse, who has associations with Arwen. I'll tell you about that some other time. And then nearby, this building here is a monument to Sir William Wallace of, what's that film? Braveheart fame. And then we went over to Falkirk. This is the Falkirk Wheel. This is a device which joins two canals via this amazing wheel. It's going faster here than what it actually does, because otherwise it would be far too slow. It's a great device, the first time we'd been. And here are the Kelpies, the largest equine statues in the world. Taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I understand. But there you go. Just amazing. You can actually see them from the motorway which runs past it. So I've never actually seen them apart from the car in the motorway. But just standing beside these things, a huge feat of artistic ingenuity. And based on the sort of folklore of the Kelpies, the seahorses. Then it was up to Dunblane. Dunblane has a special place in my heart, Tracy and I's heart. We met in Dunblane at a music school that we were there. Not in this building, this is Dunblane Cathedral, but we met in a music school just up the road from here, and we played a concert here on a few occasions together. But Dunblane Cathedral is just a beautiful place. Dunblane itself is just a small town, a large village, but it has city status in Scotland because of its beautiful, beautiful cathedral. And of course, sadly, Dunblane is known, certainly in Scotland and perhaps around the world, for the terrible events that happened there. I think back in 1996, there was a very rare school shooting here in Scotland. If there is anything that will endure the eye of God because it is pure, it is the spirit of a little child. And it says the tragedy of Dunblane, 1996. And here's Tracy and I outside Callendar Kirk. We took this picture in this exact spot because this is where in 1996 we had our first ever hug. That was the beginning of our relationship there. So we had to go and take a nice picture. And then immediately afterwards, we headed off and we had the loveliest Victoria sponge cake that we had tasted that day. There was a lot of cake, and also there was a lot of knitting. So it was just lovely to have the time and the space to relax and to enjoy each other's company, some cake and some knitting. But we also went other places. This is Stirling Castle, right on a sort of rocky promontory, right in the middle of Stirling. And the whole of the city tumbles down from this castle high up on its rock. The last time I'd been here was 1992, that same time, or 93 or something like that, on a school trip. But it's a beautiful place, beautiful castle with a palace inside. This is the inside the palace. It was a royal residence for kings of Scotland in years gone by. And this is some Scottish heraldry. It's all been decorated afresh inside. None of this is original. It's all been redone. It's a view from the window there. But they've done a marvellous job to repaint it all. It wasn't so fancy last time I was there when I was a child. But really beautiful staterooms and a great place to visit. This little lady was waxing lyrical about these rooms and how all the richest of fabrics was brought from all over Europe to furnish these palaces and these bed chambers and various things. The little lady was full of
very interesting information, but I fear she rambled on a little bit too long. They're back out now in the courtyard, and that there in front of you is the Great Hall. The left there is the large chapel, and the palace there on the right, and behind us indeed. Now in a museum there, they had lots of things related to the Argyll and Southern Highlanders. I like the knitted cap around the band. And then this was in the gift shop. There was some lovely knits in the gift shop. You know, you go to castles to see things like armour and, you know, soldiers and nice painted rooms and bedrooms and stuff. But I went to the guest shop to look at the Fair Isle knitting, which I thought was quite nice. I don't think they're necessarily hand knit, but it might be, I don't know. They look a bit machine knit, but lovely nonetheless. And I hope you appreciate those. So once we'd spent a couple of days in the Stirling area, we hopped in the car, picked up my youngest daughter who had been at camp, and then we went to Edinburgh. And we started off out on the Royal Mile here. There's the Tron Kirk in the middle of Edinburgh. And then just panning up towards St Giles Cathedral and Edinburgh Castle, right at the very top, although you can't quite see it. But it was lovely to see Edinburgh buzzing. Last time we were in Edinburgh a few years ago, it wasn't quite so busy because there was no tourists and everything was still partially closed due to COVID. But this is the National Museum of Scotland, and they have a lovely little textiles area, some embroidery, Scottish-styled embroidery, and of course some lovely Fair Isle knitting. And look at the detail on that sweater. I spent a good bit of time standing next to this, having a good sort of dissect of what was going on and how all those patterns coming together. The little front panel there under the neck looks quite sitter style if you've ever seen Arlen Callis's videos there. But they also had some lovely patterns. It's a lovely sort of Scottish feeling. Look at those lovely thistles. I can see that coming to a fisherman's camp near me. Some lovely patterns there, charts that I'm sure I'll be sitting down to dissect and trying to stick them in my knitting. So we had a lovely day. My wife and daughter, they went off to a Doctor Who exhibition while I was looking at the Fair Isle. But very soon it was lovely, absolutely lovely to be back on the ferry heading home. And when we came into Brodick Harbour, we were met with a Hooterootin expeditions boat, which immediately reminded me of Arne and Carlos with all their knitting cruises. I don't think I'll be organising one of those. However, it was a lovely holiday, so much fun.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little whistle-stop tour of our holiday to central Scotland. We really did have a great time, and our youngest daughter was off to camp. Our middle daughter was off to see her boyfriend down south. So it was just Trace and I. We had a really lovely time. Lots of time for walking, charity shopping, and we visited loads of lovely places, had plenty of tea, plenty of scones, and some knitting time. And there might have been a sort of regular 4 o'clock cocktail time in the afternoon, but don't tell anyone, okay? It was really a really nice few days, and really enjoyed the benefit of that. But when I came back from holiday, it was almost straight in to our Sannox Stitches Knitting Retreat, and some credit has to go to you good folks, because you were some of the folks that were asking if I would ever think about doing a knitting retreat at the retreat centre that I run. And so we duly had our first Sannox Stitches from the 25th to the 27th of April. It was a reasonably intimate affair. There was 7 of us all together. But to be honest with you, we can't necessarily accommodate many more people than that in our house, in our little cottage. So it was just perfect, and especially perfect just starting out and just getting the feel of how something like that ran. Now, we are a Christian retreat centre, and we had times where there was morning, midday and evening prayer. But all of those were entirely optional. And it was lovely to have that freedom so that folks could do exactly what they wanted. But the actual time together for knitting was just lovely. We started our time together just by marking it, just by marking the beginning. We went down to Sannox Beach and we picked up some white stones and some sea glass and brought it back and made the mark of a Celtic cross on the table, focusing on the words from Ecclesiastes where it says there's a time to gather stones and there's a time to scatter them. We just want to mark physically the beginning of our time together, our crafting time, and we just prayed that God would establish the work of our hands, which is a verse from one of the Psalms. So there was a Christian feel throughout it, but I hope it wasn't in your face. I'm not necessarily looking to do in your face when it comes to knitting. The really focus was just to come together and create some beautiful things, to make some new friends, and just to have a generally good time together. And that's exactly what we did. Everyone brought their own projects to do, and I see I got some good progress on my projects. I know that some of the other ladies were having a great time completing some of theirs. There was socks, and there was sweaters, and there was cardigans, and there was colour work, yokes, and all sorts of things going on. There was also some cross stitch and loads of things going on with other people that had brought their projects along. But one of the things we wanted to do was to do a project that we could do together. And one of our members of staff at Sannox has a loom, and she does some weaving. So she brought her loom along. I provided some wool. And what we made was, I was quite impressed with it. Most of us were entirely new to weaving, although one of the other delegates had a bit more weaving experience and was invaluable in helping us with that. So thanks for that, Sandy. She was invaluable in helping us to know what we were doing or what we weren't doing or what we should do. But at the end of it, we produced this lovely table runner for our coffee table in the middle of our lounge in the cottage, which is where we had the retreat, in the soft chairs and the comfy chairs, not too far from the kettle. So we all did a few shifts of putting some colour into the woven table runner, which is really special. I've never done that before, and I have to say to you, of all the crafts that I've tried, weaving is definitely one of those things that I'm fairly sure has a place in my future. So, watch this space. I just love the process. And what I loved especially about the weaving as we were working on it together was how quickly you can sort of work up a project, which is really satisfying. If you like the hit of getting a project done, weaving, although it takes time to set up and get going, once it was actually on the loom, the process was actually fairly smooth and fairly quick. So in the space of a couple of days, we were able to produce a table runner of about 1.5 meters, and that's with lots and lots of space in between. So I'm waiting to see the final project, because my colleague has taken it away and she's going to sort of wash it and block it and whatever the technical terms are for doing that when you're weaving. And then it'll come back and it'll be adorned on the coffee table in the retreat centre. But really great fun, really great ladies who had come from various places around Scotland, which was wonderful. The great thing is that we're planning to do the Sannox Stitches Knitting Retreat again in September this year, from the 8th to the 10th of September. That's Friday the 8th to Sunday the 10th of September. And details for that will be going up on the sannox.org website and on the Sannox Christian Centre Facebook page. This last retreat we went from about 2:30 on the Tuesday through to about 1:30 on the Thursday, and that will be a similar pattern, starting at around 2:30 on the Friday, going through to sort of just after midday on that Sunday. So if you're thinking about times and thinking about coming along, those are the times we'll be working at. We want to encourage you too, if you want to come along. It's quite possible to book a room at Sannox when you're not actually on a dedicated retreat. We are open all the year round for people to come and just enjoy the peace and quiet. So you can book a few days either end and just enjoy the beautiful peace of Sannox. But that was the knitting retreat. It was absolutely lovely. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hope you can join me on a future event. Well, I know you'd be disappointed if you didn't have your little Gaelic lesson for today, and I thought I would teach you the Gaelic for what's your name and then how to respond. So here it comes, what's your name, and then the response. If you want to ask someone what their name is, you would say Jay and Tenamahorst. Jay and Tenamahorst. Jay and Tenamahorst. And in response, you would say Ismisha Andra. Now I'm saying Ismisha Andra because my name is Andra. That's the Gaelic for Andrew. But you would say Ismisha Andra. Sometimes that is and Misha is sort of contracted a little bit. It's Misha or Smisha, Andra. So Andra is the Gaelic for Andrew. If you are interested in knowing what your name might be in Gaelic, I don't know if I'm being overly ambitious in saying this, but ask the question in the comments and I might be able to give you some guidance. But Jane Tennemahorst is Misha Andra. Well, it's been lovely to be back speaking to you on episode 7. Thank you so much for journeying along with us on the Albanach Knitter podcast. I'm so appreciative of all your support. One of the best things you can do to support the channel is to give us a like, to subscribe, and you can ding that little bell and then you'll get notifications whenever I sporadically put a video up onto YouTube. And if you'd like to support in another way, my Ko-fi link is down there in the comments. But for now, Martian Leven Drasta, Agus Bianach Jegud. Take care and God bless.